Hello, thank you for joining us this Friday. So my name is Sean. I've got Jackie here with me as well. Jackie and I are co-founders of my dental agency, and we're going to be your presenters here today.
So I just want to thank everyone for joining us. We're going to actually be discussing how you can take control of your online reputation to get more positive reviews and in return grow your practice. But before we get started, let us know by responding in the chat. Does anyone, does your practice currently have online reviews on places like Google or Yelp or Healthgrades? All right. Great. And then, is there anyone who is unsure if or how they should respond to negative reviews? We know that's something that we get asked a lot. Great, got a lot of great answers here. Perfect. So towards the end of the webinar, we're actually going to be discussing best practices on how to respond to reviews and when you should do it. And then we'll get started.
So a little bit about us. Again, my name is Sean, and that's Jackie with me. So we're two of the co-founders of my dental agency. We have over a decade of corporate dental laboratory marketing experience, business development, and digital marketing experience. And we like to pride ourselves on being what we say is distinctly different. So everything that we do is custom tailored to the dental practice that we're working with, their specific needs. So we're not ever putting anything out that's not totally custom and unique just for them. So you'll never find any pre-canned marketing material or designs or things that messaging, anything that's not custom to our clients. So we take a lot of pride in that, and we like to think that helps set us apart a little bit. So our goal for you today is to really come away from the webinar with a step-by-step process that's super easy to implement and will consistently generate positive reviews for your practice. So the end result here is going to be that you're able to increase the number of referrals, you're able to convert into patients, and that you're also going to see a drastic improvement of your online reputation, increasing the chances your practice will be ranked higher on the major search engines and review websites as well. So all of this really just helps you become more competitive in the geographic region that your practice serves. So why do you need reviews? Online reviews are terribly, terribly important in today's day and age. I'm sure you guys probably know that already. I'm sure you use reviews to pick out some services and businesses that you choose to do business with. So years ago, patients would refer their friends and family, and those referrals would just rely on your credentials to make a decision and book an appointment, right? And today, that's a lot different. So today, when someone refers someone to your practice, they're probably going to search for you online. They're going to read reviews other people have posted about you, and they're likely going to check out your website too. So it's just really important that your reputation online today be a positive one. And there have been studies done. One that we're referencing here found that 70% of patients said that online ratings and reviews influence their choice of dentist. So that's huge. I mean, that's 70%. That's a really large number. So another stat we have is that people are willing to pay up to 99% more for an excellent rated service rather than one with a good rating. And this is really important here because this means that not only will these reviews or having a good reputation online will help you attract more patients, but that you also may be able to charge a higher rate for your services here. So just really, really important. So just think about if you were a new patient looking for a dentist online, and maybe there were two practices that you found that serve the area that you live in. One of those practices had 2 positive reviews, and another had 200 positive reviews. Both dentists offer the same exact services, and let's just pretend they have identical qualifications. So the prospect, or the patient in this case, calls practice A, who only has 2 reviews, and requests pricing on a specific service. She then calls practice B, who has 200 positive reviews, and finds their pricing is usually slightly higher than practice A. So in the end, the patient ends up going with a higher price practice simply because they were more comfortable given the many positive reviews online. I'm sure this has happened to you as well. So the real takeaway here is that practice A may have provided the same quality service, maybe even better, for a more affordable price, but wasn't seriously considered just due to their lack of their online reputation. So there are a ton of websites that your practice could be generating reviews on. There's going to be the really popular ones that you guys have probably heard of, like Google Places, Google Plus, Google My Business, which are really today all the same thing. Facebook, Yelp. These are the really big ones that I'm sure you guys have heard of before. And then we have some industry-specific sites. And when I say industry-specific, these are sites that are more geared towards medical in general, not just dentistry, but medical in general. And that's going to be your Health Grades, RateMDs, and ZocDoc, which some of you guys actually may be using today. So the difference between there's obviously just a big difference between sites, right? The consumer sites, you're going to find all kinds of businesses there, not just dentists or medical providers. And then, like I said earlier, on the industry sites, we just have those medical providers. So a lot of times it's pretty common for us to hear that, well, I don't think dentists belong on Yelp, or I don't see any other dentist reviews on Yelp, or maybe even on Facebook. And we certainly understand that a lot of people think that. But what we really want to keep in mind is that these sites, the Facebooks and Yelps and Googles of the world, have a ton of authority online. And that means that they're very likely to appear in search engine results. So when someone's searching for a new dentist in the area that they live in, very likely they're going to see results from Google, Facebook, and Yelp. And so because of that, we feel it's really important that your practice is represented there and shown there in a good light. So you've probably heard of some of these other sites as well. So there are what we call self-hosted review sites like Demandforce and Rate-A-Biz, which is part of the Lighthouse 360 suite, that also help generate reviews. And these sites are drastically different than the ones we discussed in the last slide. And the major difference here is that these sites help you establish reviews on their proprietary websites and sometimes on your own website as well. The drawback here is that these reviews aren't published to major review websites that most consumers know and trust. Most people that you ask will not be familiar with Demandforce or Rate-A-Biz. So that's just kind of a big difference here. They're also not as likely to rank high in the major search engines. So when, again, going back to a new patient looking for a dentist, it's very likely they're going to see search engine results from Google, Facebook, Yelp, so on and so forth. They're probably not going to see search results for Demandforce and Rate-A-Biz. So just something to keep in mind. We run into practices a lot that are using these services, and they are good at something. So this is certainly better than doing nothing at all. They're really good about helping you generate reviews on your website and getting feedback from your patients, which are both really, really important things. Again, they just don't help you get those reviews on those other websites. So let's just think for a second about someone, again, who just moved into town and is looking for a new dentist, right? So they do some searching, obviously, right? They come across two practices. The first practice looks like a sound choice and even has a good number of positive reviews directly on their website, right? So they're visiting the practice's website, and on that website, there's some good reviews, or maybe what we would call testimonials there. But there's not really any reviews for that practice on Google or Yelp or anywhere else. The second practice that they find has 150 reviews on Google with an average rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars. It's pretty obvious, right, which practice you think that patient would choose, right? Because the Google reviews are more likely to be from real people, where the practice's website, it's your website, right? So you can publish any reviews you want on your website, and people they really know that today. So it's just really important, again, that you're establishing reviews on these third-party or on these really popular review websites, not just your own website. So you're probably wondering, well, this all sounds great, right? But how do we get started? So There's a few easy steps, and we're going to go over what we think is a good approach to do that here today. So the first thing you want to do is organize all of your information. So this is going to be the name of your practice, the phone number that you want published on all these review websites, your address, website address, your office hours. All of these things are really, really important to keep in sync amongst all these review websites. It's really, really important. So in the next 24 hours after today's webinar, everyone who's attended today is going to receive an email with some free tools to help you get started. And one of those tools is a nice little spreadsheet that will help organize all your practices information to help you get your practice easily listed on these major review websites that we talked about earlier. So don't feel like you have to take a ton of notes right now. You guys are all going to get that in the next 24 hours here after the webinar. You're likely going to find that your practice is already listed on most of these review websites. A lot of cases, maybe you set them up or set up those listings or previous maybe employee that worked for you. And a lot of times, believe it or not, these websites actually set up a listing for you. And so it's not uncommon for you to find that you may already be listed there. You also may find that it may be listed there and you have a username and password to access it. That's obviously the best case scenario. It may also be listed there automatically, in which case maybe like Google or Yelp puts you there automatically. In those cases, there's always a nice small link that you can click on to claim your listing that will walk you through proving that you truly do own or work or reside at the practice and can claim access to that listing so you can edit it. In either case, you just want to set aside some time to work through some of these things. It's not hard. It's not impossible to do. We do this day in and day out. And you don't have to have a ton of experience with this to know how to do this, but it does take some time to go through all these websites and make sure you're listed properly. And our end goal here is just for you to have one completely populated profile on each major review website. It's not uncommon for you to find duplicates. You may find that there's maybe a listing for the doctor and a listing for the practice itself, or maybe there's 3 listings for the practice on one website. That's not uncommon. That happens sometimes. In those cases, you're just going to want to work with those websites to get those duplicates removed, because we want to make sure, that you have one listing on each of these websites so that you don't have reviews scattered amongst 2 or 3 or 4 different listings. It's really, really important. So you want to be sure that you review those listings and then remove any duplicates that you might find.
So we have a 6-step approach to asking for your reviews. So Sean did a great job on letting you guys know why you need the reviews, where the reviews should be published, and kind of taking you through those steps. And the next thing we typically hear from a lot of practices, okay, great. Like, we know we have to be on Google, we know we have to be on Yelp, Facebook, all of those pages, but how do we get those reviews? And we know that a lot of times it's a little bit uncomfortable to ask your patient. Some people struggle with that, some people don't, some people do a fantastic job. So we have the 6-step approach that we're going to take you through today, kind of explain each of those and best practices for each. So the first is inconsistency. So what we mean by this is you don't have to ask every single patient that's in your practice. We found that it's extremely helpful if you have a morning huddle or maybe a weekly meeting, anywhere where you guys are gathering and discussing, the patients that you have for the day or the week. You identify a handful. Doesn't have to, like I said, it does not have to be every single patient that walks through the door. Maybe you identify a handful that you're going to ask for that day or the next few days, and identify who has the best relationship. So what we found is, again, it's a little bit uncomfortable to ask for reviews sometimes. And if you have a better relationship, so let's say you identify that Jane Doe knows your hygienist really well. Well, task the hygienist with asking for that review. Maybe the doctor has that best relationship with Jane Doe. Then you identify that in your morning huddle, and they're going to take the lead on asking that patient for the review. We also found that the review sites, they obviously don't want to get inundated with reviews all at once. It's really important to kind of have a trickle effect. So what we mean by this is, let's say you guys are excited after this webinar. You think to yourself, that's it. We're going after all our patients, and we're going to ask everybody for reviews. So you go gangbusters on Monday, and you get, let's just say you get 100 reviews in the next 3 days, and then you stop, and then you don't get any for 3 months. That doesn't look well, number one, to prospects or prospective patients that are looking on those sites. So you want to kind of have that little bit of a trickle effect. So 3 or 4, a week is sufficient. So signage in the waiting room or maybe the checkout, we found that having some creative signage to ask to help aid in asking for those reviews. We like to design ours in more of a creative, lighthearted way. That way, number one, it grabs the attention of your patients. They know what you want, and maybe they'll even do it on their own. So you have someone waiting in the waiting room, and they see your sign, and they just go ahead and take the initiative and do it. So we have found that it really helps aid in asking for reviews. So you really want to make it easy for your patients to leave reviews. It really is, we know our patients are busy, right? So we know most people are busy, and they're not going to just actively go out and leave your review. We hope that they do, but that doesn't happen often. So you want to make it easy. You want to ask them to take a few minutes, explain why reviews benefit your practice. Make sure that they expect the email, obtain their email address, and be enthusiastic when you ask. So if you're going to send manual emails, we send the reminder, I'm sorry, not the reminder, when we send our follow-up email with the replay of the webinar, we're going to send a template of an email that you can use. And it's kind of easy. So obviously you have to ask it in your own way, but we're going to go through this role play. So if you ask John today, how was your visit today, John? He responds. You say, that's nice to hear. We really enjoy having you part of our family here. We'd love to have more patients like you. The best way we find new patients is from online reviews. Would you be willing to take 2 to 3 minutes and post feedback about your experience with us? Of course. And then you say, I'll just give me your email address. I'll send a brief message in the next few minutes with an easy link and instructions on where to post your feedback. So you want to make it easy. So you want to give them the link directly to the site that you want them to leave the review, whether that be Google or Facebook or Yelp. Let them know that you'll be sending that in the next few minutes so they know to look for that. So a lot of the practices that we talk to, they're already actively sending maybe emails on a regular basis. Maybe they're talking about whitening. They have an active email campaign. This is a great way to remind the patients that you already asked. So, maybe you ask 100 patients and only 5 of them are actually leaving their reviews. We want to give them a little reminder. You don't want to overwhelm them, so don't send an email blast every week, but you want to do it every so often, just to give them a little push. So ongoing monitoring. It's really, really important that you check these review sites. Again, if you're pushing people to Google, to Yelp, to Health Grades, wherever that might be, you want to have someone assigned in your practice to look and monitor the sites that your patients are leaving reviews on. We recommend doing this on a weekly basis and responding to those reviews, whether they be negative or positive. Don't let them linger. Just type back, even if it's just, thank you, John, we appreciate having you part of our practice, and responding to that review. Again, it doesn't have to be daily. You can do this more on a weekly basis, but it's very important that you're responding to these reviews if the review platform allows you to respond. Like we said earlier, so we're going to address the negative review. So we find it's really important to not leave a negative review unaddressed. Obviously, you never want to be aggressive or argumentative or combative. We find a lot of times that these negative reviews, they're unwarranted. They're not legit. They could have been someone extremely upset about something that you have no control over, whether that be insurance, whether it wasn't even your practice at all. We've actually heard that. So we've heard that, there's someone that got on and left a review and it wasn't that they didn't even see that patient. The worst thing you can do is get on there and try to battle them. You definitely don't want to battle and go back and forth. It's extremely important that you at least respond to the review, whether it be legit or not. The reason you want to do this is because people that see, let's say you have 100 positive reviews and they do come across one negative review. Number one, most people can see through a negative review if it's not legit. And if they see that you try to rectify it, it's really important that they see that, because they're going to see that, okay, maybe they did have a bad experience, but the doctor or the staff tried to rectify it. So we want to thank you guys today for taking time. We know that you might have questions. There's a lot that's involved with review gathering and building your practice through reviews. We set up free strategy sessions. So if you guys want, you're more than welcome to give us a call. We'll set that up. We normally take about 30 minutes. We can answer any of your questions. You can email us, whatever is best for you guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We really appreciate you joining in today. Does anyone have any, excuse me, questions you want to post in the chat here? Maybe we can answer here before we end the webinar today. Yeah, Ron. I mean, there's going to be sites that have that are well known in certain areas. We usually focus on Google first, and because that's where most people are going when they're searching for somebody new or searching for a new dentist, and so. I would say that if Yelp's not really doesn't have a good presence in maybe the area that you service, then focus on a site like Google or maybe Facebook that does have a bigger presence. So that's certainly a good point, and certainly something you want to think about when you're trying to choose which website you want to send your patients to leave reviews for you. Just to give you another little tip there, we usually like to focus for a certain period of time on one specific site. So we'll find the site where the practice either needs the most help, or maybe it doesn't need the most help, but maybe just is the best one to start with because it's where most prospective patients are. And we'll funnel all of their patients to post reviews there. And then once we get a good profile there and a good number of positive reviews, maybe let's say that was Google, then we move on to Facebook. We never want to give our patients too many choices because that makes it a little confusing. Yeah, Colleen, the reviews are really powerful. Thanks so much for saying that. People truly do read those, and they're reading the negative ones just as much as the positive ones. And just like Jackie said before, that's why it's just so important to respond to those negative reviews in just a really kind and friendly way. Because what that truly does is it turns that negative review into something that when people see it, they understand, well, maybe that the patient didn't have a great experience, and that's okay. But it definitely shows that the practice cares and the practice wants to resolve the situation, wherever that may be, which is 100 times better than having a negative review that just sits there and that's not addressed. So it's really, really, really important. Colleen also brings up another good point, just about asking her patients, right, how they're finding them. That's definitely something to keep in mind. We should track as much as you guys should track as much as you possibly can. So when someone calls the office, you definitely, I think, would be a good idea to ask how they found you. And I think you'll find that some of them will say that they have read reviews for you online. So just really important. Henry, that's a really, really great question. And that's something that we get asked actually pretty often. So I would say our advice is to be just very kind, but pretty brief. So if someone posts a negative review online, what I would do is have whoever is monitoring these reviews for your office, whether that's the office manager or maybe someone that works at the front desk, that they respond with something simple, something along the lines of, "I'm so sorry that you had a bad experience with us. We definitely want to make this right. Please call this phone number and ask for Jane, and I'd like to talk to you about how we can resolve this problem for you. Again, I'm really sorry that you had a bad experience." So again, the whole goal here is that we just want people, when they see that in the future, for it to be very obvious that you are attentive to people who maybe didn't have a good experience, again, whether it was out of your control or not, and that you try to rectify the situation. And then when they pick up the phone and call you, I would handle that no different than if someone called in a bad experience, right? So I think that that's just the best way to handle it. I think again, it shows that you care, and then it also stops the conversation typically, or it stops it and it tracks at that point. Most people are not going to post a follow-up comment to that. They're going to pick up the phone and call. And again, it's just really important that you don't become combative or try to argue your position online. That's never going to serve you well, because most of that will live online forever. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great weekend.